short a couple of hands, but three makes it four. Bill Tiegelman, Ron Magala, Steph Ritter. First thing we'll do is pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the next order of business is to adopt the agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
I so move. I move that we adopt the agenda.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, adopted the agenda. Actually, the next item I'm going to ask us to table the minutes because we haven't had a chance to go over them because we've got other priorities, and so we will take care of that next month.
Mr. Chairman, can I butt in for one moment?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
You probably want to vote to allow Mr. Toller to participate remotely due to his having to take medical care of someone.
Okay, yes.
Yeah,
So,
3708.2.
right. Okay, we need to, if in fact he's able to participate, to bring Andrew on the video.
Okay, I move that if Andrew is able to participate, we bring him in on video.
I say.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Hopefully that's correct. Okay, so our first order of business is the public hearing. It's zoning appeal 23-01-02, appeal of Charlotte Wagner. Charlotte Wagner has filed an appeal of zoning administrator's opinion dated October 25th, 2022, sent to Laura Morey and Nancy McNear. So we will start out with asking the appellant to make her case.
Trying to establish my business in Rappahannock County has been quite the experience. Each step of the way, I learned something new and have kept moving forward with more criteria to consider as we shifted our model based on community concerns and demands. Ultimately, it led us to a commercial parcel right on westbound 211 as you enter Sperryville. The layout of the building with the existing infrastructure and recently renovated facilities was ultimately the ideal fit. My experience with the zoning administration has been challenging since my purchase of the property. I'm here today to appeal the violation citation issued on October 25th because of my experiences. Prior to the purchase of the property, both the former owner and myself on separate occasions inquired with the zoning administrator about the use of the property for our dog training facility. It was confirmed that our operation is a permitted by right use as it is owned commercial. There's also an email exchange reflecting that. Once the property had been purchased, concerns started coming in from the zoning administrator. First, there was suspicion about our camper being parked on the property, yet no code was cited, and I was unable to find anything prohibiting me from storing the travel trailer on the lot. Nobody lives there. I use it on weekends when I go to dog shows. Then there was worry regarding a building permit for above-ground pool. Once again, no specific code cited, and nothing prohibiting us from having it via the code. For the record, we do meet state requirements for safety. Routinely, I would receive a request for a zoning permit and site plan. I had the applications, looked them over, and realized the criteria requested was not applicable to us. The place was move-in ready, and we have not made any rebuilds or renovations. Upon further research, I began questioning the legitimacy of the necessity of such a permit. Our operation does not require health department approval, and we've been using the facility as is with minor cosmetic improvements. I raised these concerns with the zoning administrator, and after further research, we received a confirmation letter stating that the zoning permit would not be needed. After the initial concerns, we were notified of complaints filed by only 2 community members regarding activity beyond the commercial area. On the deeded land behind the well house, removed from the dangers of the highway, Positioned behind the main building, we have our fenced-in exercise yard in question. There, we start bird dogs on retrieves and introduce them to gunfire. We can easily corner off sheep and introduce dogs in a safely controlled environment. And we cross-train for body awareness, focus, and control with our agility equipment. The yard is also used to exercise, condition, and train our own personal dogs. At the end of September, we had an unexpected, unplanned visit from the zoning county administrator, county attorney, and county administrator, where I openly showed them the property, lot lines, and explained our choice of location for the yard. At that point, the county attorney stated that hunting dogs and sheepdog training is agricultural use. However, other training may not be allowed. I was confused. There are hundreds of sheepdog and hunting breeds. Where do we draw the line? Are our operations limited based on breed? We do not have breed-specific legislation in our county. Are we limited to what tasks we can train? But what about the activities specifically tailored to control dogs in an agricultural or rural setting? How come I can go to a client's house and it's considered consulting, yet providing the same service in our exercise yard is deemed questionable? The visit raised more questions than gave answers. I have made every attempt to operate our business within the specifications of our code with limited support and contradictory feedback. It is time for the checks and balances of our government to weigh in on the matter via this board and appeal. I believe our secondary use of the exercise yard falls well within the county's definition of accessory use. We have no permanent structures and there's no impact on the land. The activities conducted are either agriculture in nature, such as training sheep and hunting dogs, agriculture adjacent, like training dogs to be safe around livestock, we just got some pigs today, and overall education on responsible dog ownership in a rural environment, especially since our county does not have any leash laws. Additionally, I believe the two other training establishments in the county are conducted on non-commercial land without any special permits since the early 90s. Well after the code of 1986 was established, I believe their operation set substantial precedent for our own business. Given our main facility is located in commercial zoning, we are asking for less accommodation than has been extended to our competition. I'm happy to answer any of your questions and can share my own questions and concerns regarding the process. Thank you.
Board members have any questions of the applicant?
Is one of your arguments that the training, the dogs that you're training are basically used for agricultural uses, would you say?
So yes, some of the specific activities were deemed ag use, like training hunting dogs and training sheepdogs.
Yeah.
But realistically, when you live out here, all dogs need training in an ag setting. Are they being specifically trained, all of them to be sheepdogs or herding dogs? No. But a lot of our clients live on farms and they need a controlled environment that is safe for the dogs to learn how to be off leash, how to be under control, so that when they have their dogs at home, they can apply those concepts across the board.
Bill, do you have questions?
I have no questions. This has been before us for a while.
Right. And I have no questions, so we've had quite a bit of information about to present on this. So at this point, I'll turn to the zoning administrator to ask her to make her presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back in May 2022, Ms. Wagner contacted my office regarding her interest in purchasing the Old Legacy Farmers Market. After reviewing her business proposal for the property, I issued a letter dated May 11, 22, stating that her business, a kennel, was a permitted use for the property since it was zoned general commercial. As a side note, I issued a determination letter prior to that, dated March 3rd, that her business of a dog training center fell within the definition of a kennel. It was not appealed within the 30 days, and it's considered a thing decided. In August, I started receiving complaints that Ms. Wagner was operating outside of the general commercial area conducting her agility course. By email dated 8/25, I reminded Ms. Wagner that the general commercial only extended so far back and to constrain her operations to the commercial portion of the property. While there was back and forth on if a zoning permit and a site plan were needed, I sent another letter dated September 20th not requiring any after reviewing the ordinance in depth. In my letter, however, I again repeated that the kennel operations needed to be constrained to the commercial portion of the property. If she did not constrain them to the commercial portion, then she would need to apply and be granted a special use permit. I also requested that she discontinue that use on the ag portion of the parcel without formally issuing a notice of violation, and gave a date to do so by September 30th. On September 6th, I met with the county attorney and county administrator regarding this, since nothing had been complied with since my letter. We did go out to the site to determine if we could exactly determine where the commercial portion of the property stopped and where the ag portion began in reference to the plat. Ms. Wagner was on site and welcomed us. We toured the property and she took us to the draining agility course area and described what she was using it for. It was clear at that point that the agility course was not even on her parcel of land, but on the Maury McNear property, which she informed us that she leased. On October the 24th, the county attorney, Mr. Art Goff, issued his opinion memo, which you all have copies of. He issued that to me after the on-site meeting and discussion with Ms. Wagner. On October the 25th, I issued my notice of violation to the owners of the property by law. On November 28th, Ms. Wagner filed her appeal.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Yeah, I have some questions. Mr. Goff's letter, he indicated that if the dogs that were being trained were herding dogs, or you gave the example of coon dogs, foxhounds, hunting dogs, bird dogs, you had a whole long list. If that was the group that was being trained in the area that's in contention, would there be a problem? Would there be a need for a special use permit?
So if that were the only dogs that were being trained back there, we wouldn't be here. We were told otherwise on site at the meeting.
But there are other places, like there are places around the county that train bird dogs and herding dogs, and we actually don't know whether the dogs that are being trained are bred to be bird dogs or bred to be herding dogs. They're just being trained for that purpose. And then I also wondered where Mr. Goff got that in the code, and whether or not, because I couldn't find the section that says training herd dogs and bird dogs and fox hunting dogs is an agricultural use.
I'm going to let Mr. Goff's memo speak for itself. I'm not going to speak for him. He is the county attorney.
I know, but I'm just curious if you have any idea.
So I can't answer that question.
Yeah, right, that's because I don't think there is an answer.
No, I'm kind of a little, are you finished? Take your time. I'm a little confused. Now, are we saying that if the dogs that are being trained in this portion of land, this piece of land, if they were entirely dogs whose sole purpose was dedicated to some kind of agricultural process, that this would be permissible?
That's the argument.
Okay, and because somehow these dogs are dual purpose makes it impermissible? I'm not sure how that, I don't see how that works. If you take your hunting dog home and the kids pet him, do you lose your, I mean, what's going on here? How do we make these distinctions in a clear, concise, and implementable way? We can't note the motive of each trainer and the daily purpose of every dog. We either have to allow it or not. We can't just like, oh, well, you're not doing the using the dog for the right thing. People can train these dogs and never use them for the things they train them for. There's nothing that says they, I'm confused. Can someone straighten me out on this? Michelle?
I believe Mr. Goff's memorandum speaks for itself again.
Okay.
Okay, my question would be, are the words dog training facility mentioned in the zoning ordinance?
No, but we have classified it as a kennel.
Are the words dog training facility mentioned in the ordinance?
Again, we have classified our operation as a kennel. It was made in a determination letter, it was not appealed, and you're not here to decide that use. That has already been done.
I'll take that as a no. Any other questions?
Yeah, it's like somebody's built a school and you're classifying it as a beer hall and now it can't be, you can't tell, so this is not a kennel. How can anyone classify it as a kennel? It's clearly not a kennel.
Mr. Tiekelman?
I understand what you said and I understand what Mr. Goff said, but the point is still, we cannot hold someone to standards which do not apply. I mean, let's be serious here. This is it. We can't be making things up.
Not over.
I mean, we have to go by the rules on this. It's got to be what it is.
Yes. Made your point, Bill.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, hearing no further questions for the zoning administrator, I will open up the public comment portion of the public hearing. Does anyone wish to speak? Please identify yourself by name and voting district.
My name is Carol Tavares. I'm in Stonewall, Castleton. I've lived there for 25 years. I know and am friends with the other two trainers in the county, and I was really pleased when Charlotte opened Caninology because despite having taken training classes with the other trainers at their places, she offers something they don't, which is her Canino Club, which means I get to decide each week when I'm, as a subscriber, what kind of training I do with my dog, which, by the way, happens to be a herding dog, as if that matters. And I think it's a really valuable service to the community. And also, it is impeccably clean and impeccably well managed. And I think Charlotte is an asset to our community, and I just wanted to stand and speak in support of her.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak?
Carrie Sutton in Piedmont. I live there and I am in business there. I actually wanted to address two of the points. You know, I wrote policy for 30 years in government, and I've also interpreted it, and there's lots of ways to interpret things. I actually interpreted both the definition of a kennel and his use for ag differently than Mr. Goff did. And in fact, if you read the definition for kennel, it doesn't include anything about training. You could go look at other cities, and I did. You can look at other ones. They describe training facilities very different than kennels. We all know that Charlotte doesn't keep animals there. She trains them with their owners, and they go home. So it is not a kennel. I agree that that definition is inappropriate. We're kind of working down that path with the welcome Sprayville sign, where we're shoehorning, forcing a definition on a sign that's not a sign. That's what's happening here. You're forcing her to be a kennel, and in fact, she's not a kennel because our ordinance hasn't matured to the point to describe her. I also want to describe our agricultural use. I trained my dog in the city. When my dog and I got trained, it was to train her to walk on a leash, it was to train her to pee in a tree box, it was to train her to socialize with other dogs when I sent her off to daycare because I was working all day long. That's very different than when I moved out here. My dog didn't need to learn those skills. My dog needed to learn how to stay away from my chickens and treat my goats properly, to not chase a deer into the woods, which I have seen happen. In fact, I had some friends that me and brought their beautiful little Bernese mountain dog from the city and then proceeded to kill 17 chickens. What she does is she trains animals in an agricultural setting. I think that is definitely fits within the zoning, and so I encourage you to accept her appeal. I also want to mention one other thing. I've expressed this to the county attorney and the deputy county attorney. It concerns me that we tend to be anti-business. And these are interpretations. And I don't know if the interpretation was done intentionally or by mistake, but it is easy to look at that code and help a business. One that we want, one that's committed to our community, that's lived here, that actually participates in the 4-H program at the high school, that actually is engaged in the community in downtown. These are the types of people, and it's a small business. These are the types of people we want to encourage here. In Sperryville, in the last 3 years, I can tell you 4 businesses that have either closed or not open because it's too difficult to run in this county operation. So I encourage you to rethink the definitions or the interpretations of those codes and actually give Charlotte the benefit of the doubt. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dick Raines. I'm in the Stonewall District. I'm not a zoning expert, I don't have any opinion on the zoning, but I do have a dog. This is not Bailey, by the way. He's perfect. I do have a dog, Simon, who my oldest son has gifted to me, who has some behavioral issues, and one of them is he chases my neighbor's cattle. Don't tell Paul. Paul's right now getting some cancer treatment. I've kept it away from him, but I've taken Simon to Charlotte for behavioral training for a variety of issues, and it's hard to separate them all, but one of the things I'm hoping to do is to have Simon stop chasing Paul's cattle. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Capielli, I think it's Jackson District, doesn't really matter. 90%,
Actually, you're in Hampton.
Hampton, fine, Hampton, everybody knows who I am, it doesn't really matter.
He voted twice.
3. 90% of the county is agricultural zone. We've had this discussion before in this board, the last location, about changing agricultural to commercial. She went and got a commercial place. The backside of it's agricultural. Okay, great. The people that are bringing their dogs to get trained are coming from agricultural zoned properties. So it is an agricultural training. Coming from agricultural zoned homes, going to an agricultural zoned place to get trained to be around agriculture. It's a real simple circle, but the people who are think that they're in charge are trying to jam something up that's helpful because they feel different. Is it that who's training who? Are we supposed to train the zoning people to believe that it's our county and we're going to live here the way that we want in agricultural zones? Or are they training us to live the way that they want us to live? It's up to you guys.
Thank you.
I'm Red Dornstead. I'm an adjacent property owner. I got a letter from y'all.
Oh, okay.
And I have 2 dogs, 2 Labrador retrievers, and I call them farm dogs. The youngest one used to chase cattle next door, and now he doesn't. Charlotte has helped me out with him, and I've resolved his problem. Now, you know, since they took over down there, that deserted building for, 2 years now, has gone even further improvements that it already had. And they got a nice place down there, nice clean place, and they're absolutely no bother to me at all. As a matter of fact, I enjoy going by there and seeing that building, being of great use to local residents and serving the people of Rappahannock County as opposed to not being there. So I would urge you very strongly to find it in Charlotte's favor. Thank you.
My name is Lynn, last name is Ferguson Kearns. I have used
And
the
you
other,
live- what district?
I don't know what district I'm in Culpeper.
Oh, you're in
Okay,
Culpeper, okay.
but I come from Culpeper
Oh, okay, you came back to train.
to go to Charlotte.
Okay.
Okay, I have used the other two dog trainers in our area, and I did not have great success with them. Okay, Charlotte has a way of training that was of great success, and that's lucky for us that we found her. Okay, not only does she is a great teacher to teach us to deal with our dogs, but she also teaches impulse, she teaches behavior, she teaches a variety of things. So she's a great asset to your community, to our community. Even though I live in Amosville and it's not in Rappahannock County, it's in the Culpeper County District. I urge you to please pass this zoning problem because she's a great asset.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Megan Fitch. I live in Fauquier County, but I travel to Sperryville to participate in training in Charlotte, so I hope it's okay if I speak quickly.
All right.
I have a very stubborn Old English sheepdog, so we've been clients of Charlotte's for the past couple of years. And, we participated in agility, and that's not been for the purposes of competition. It's to provide a diversity of training environments and learn new commands so that we can apply that to our everyday life. I live on a farm. I have a horse that's boarded at another farm. Training in the field in question with the open land, Charlotte's farm animals, cars coming and going has been instrumental in helping my dog be focused and behaved around other livestock where I live. We wouldn't have made the progress we've made if we didn't have the option of training outside under these conditions. So I strongly urge you to grant her appeal. This has been, it's so important for us to be able to continue to train in this field, and I know the same with others here. Thank you.
This is Poppy. My wife and I live in Greg Mays at the Amosville Fire Department. And Poppy's a tree walker coonhound, and Charlotte and Caninology have trained us on how to use the e-collar so that Poppy will come back. And the agility portion of Caninology is vital to that training because we need to get her in that space before we let her into any larger space. So I urge also that her appeal is granted. Thank you.
Can I say one more thing?
Any other comments? Go ahead.
Dabney Kirchman, Piedmont District. I've trained two different dogs with Charlotte since 2017. They're both livestock guardian dogs that I had as pets, but I also have chickens. And one was rescued from our local rescue organization. And without her expertise in managing this 110-pound dog who we live in a county with no leash laws, so when I want to take my dog on Woodard Road and there's other random dogs running at me because there are no leash laws, her expertise has helped me handle him on Woodard Road when that happens and not fall down and break my ankle or not have the other dogs hurt my dog. So again, the exact field, the fact is that there are no permanent structures on it. There is nothing that isn't agricultural about the agility question in field, and her expertise in managing dogs out here, rescue dogs, livestock guardian, big dogs that are dangerous if they're out of control is really important to our quality of life. So I also support her. However you guys resolve this, I hope you will in her favor. Thank you.
Any more comments? No?
Hi, Mark Reinhardt, Jackson District. I just want to voice my support for the appellant, and I think it's a huge asset to our community. It's obviously desired, it's obviously a benefit. Training is a broad spectrum activity, so it's conducted in an agricultural setting. By its nature, there's going to be agricultural type of training performed, even if someone's intention is not to have the dog become a sheepdog or a champion herding dog. So I feel like it's inherent in the location that agricultural training is going on, especially in the county we live in, with no leash laws like was mentioned. So I agree with Mr. Tiegelman's confusion. I don't know why splitting hairs is being done this way. I don't think it applies, so I feel like the appeal should be granted. Thank you.
Seeing no further hands, whatever, I will recognize the gentleman from Hampton District.
I want to point out two things. One, at the previous location hearings, there was all the complaints about the dogs were going to get away, they were going to be noisy, it was going to be an ecological problem with the urine and the dogs, crap. And it didn't happen. Nobody's been bit. No dog has been hit. There isn't the 50 dogs that were supposed to be there. All of that, she did exactly what she said she was going to do. So if she says that she's doing this, believe her. I believe in her enough that me and my boys built this pen that we're all talking about for free. We went there and put it together in 3 days. She brought us pizza. Okay?
Some trees. People trees.
It is. But she's a great human being. She's doing a great service. And again, somebody's trying to start a business. And that's a growth tick. It has to be destroyed one way or the other. Leave her alone.
Okay, seeing no further hands, I will close the public comment portion of the public hearing, and it will now come back to the board.
Yeah, in defense of our zoning administrator, when the first time that Charlotte applied for, or was trying to get a place to use, we were all in agreement that a special use permit was both required and we thought it should be issued. And the reason we said that was not because we looked in the dictionary to see what the definition of kennel was, but because we went to the zoning ordinance. And the zoning ordinance defines kennel as any place so designed that dogs cannot escape and where any number of animals are kept for the purpose of sale, rental, so on and so forth, or any commercial purpose or economic venture, or for animals in excess of 5 over 1 year in age, so on and so forth, in a pet shop. So that actually does apply to Charlotte's training enterprise. Having said that, then, what do you do if that enterprise is also on agricultural land? According to the zoning ordinance, what you do is you get a special use permit so that you can do that training on the agricultural land. And that's the way we interpreted it the first time. The complicating factor, I think, is that, and I actually talked to John McCarthy to find out what he did. He also required special use permits for dog training. He said Mountain View just slipped through the cracks. He didn't remember her ever applying for one, but that Ms. Petty, in fact, had, and that he had issued a permit. However, he said that places where they were training herding dogs, or dogs for so-called agricultural use, were not required to get a special use permit. And to me, that's where the quandary is. If you look at the ordinance, livestock in the Rappahannock ordinance is described as animals, especially farm animals, raised for use, profit, or enjoyment, including horses, ponies, buffalo, cattle, sheep, swine, goats, and other similar domesticated animals. Now, I could throw dogs into that. You know, why not? I mean, they're clearly animals that provide a use and certainly enjoyment on the farm. So if livestock, what we're talking about is training livestock, you know, animals for the benefit of livestock, then I think it's probably not necessary to get a special use permit. Listen, I think from listening to what people have said, though, I think both dogs for agricultural use and for personal use are being trained in this section. The other thing that bothers me is that, you know, I have this thing about, you know, anybody under 70 that wants to move into this county should be welcome. But, and especially somebody who wishes to start a business, and one that is so low impact, you know. This is a business that doesn't interfere with the water quality, it doesn't interfere with the scenic view, it's a small pen where some dogs spend some time. It just seems ludicrous to me to complain about this. And it's not the zoning administrator. The zoning administrator is responding to the neighbors' complaints. You know, our zoning administration is complaint driven. You know, the other places are just lucky that they don't have cranky neighbors. That's my opinion. But you know, in our comprehensive plan, the principle number 7 is promote only economic growth that assists in maintaining our existing balance and is compatible with the environmental quality and rural character, does not adversely affect active farm operations, forestry operations, residential neighborhoods, the tourist industry, and the county's fiscal stability. And clearly this falls directly into that. You know, so in balancing, I'm going to let my partners here further discussion, but I'm having a hard time figuring out how to balance the two you know, basic ordinances. You know, the definition of we're talking here about livestock or a kennel.
Is there some way that we might be able to view this as not being agricultural on agricultural zone property?
Well,
the fact that it's commercial, I mean, all agriculture that's successful is typically commercial. That can't.
Well, the way the ordinance is set up.
I mean, we're not rewriting the zoning. We're just trying to interpret it to in the most reasonable way possible. Of course, we can't rewrite it, but.
No, but we don't even look. What the ordinance says is, if you have a kennel on agricultural land,
right,
then you need a special use permit.
Right.
That's what the ordinance says.
Right. And she's applied for it. This is it.
No.
Oh, this is.
The problem is that she has not applied for the special use permit. That is what Michelle wants her to do. So it's not like if Charlotte loses this appeal, that she can continue her business. What she has to do is go get a special use permit, which, considering the makeup of this board, I'm going to guess she gets. So that's the issue. Is that correct?
That's right.
That remains to be seen.
I find Steph's argument very persuasive.
Okay. The information that I'm aware of, that I was able to ascertain, is that both the Mountain View Kennel in Amosville and the kennel in Sperryville here, the known one, not kennel, excuse me, dog training. They are dog training facilities, they're not kennels. Were told that they did not need a permit. Both. That's the knowledge that I have. And based on that, I prepared a motion, which I still think, not having any, at this point in time, not having any proof one way or the other, I'm willing to go with it. And also, we need to be aware that we are in board of 3 right now, and it does take 3 votes to pass, to make a decision.
It's got to be unanimous.
It's got to be unanimous. And if not,
Mr. Chairman, I believe it's 4.
Oh, we have a fourth now?
do we have a 4th?
Well, you've got 3 sitting with you, and you have Dr. Kohler here.
I was not aware that Dr. Kohler was online.
Yep. I've enjoyed the whole experience.
Okay.
Oh,
Great.
Okay.
Great, any questions?
Yeah, it's your turn for questions.
Somehow he didn't want to show us his picture. 'Cause I've only seen one little. Okay. So like I said, I'm going to make this statement then based on the information that I was able to dig up. And the history of dog training as a business in Rappahannock County under the present zoning ordinance dates back to the early 1990s. The zoning administrator at that time made a decision based on a citizen request to establish a dog training facility on their property in agricultural zoning that no permit would be required. And I spoke to this person, and that information was transmitted to me, that she's told she did not need any permit. The business was established, that's on tax map 3361, and it's been operating there ever since, over 25 years. That decision was not challenged and became a thing decided, which in zoning is when a zoning administrator makes a decision on an item and it is not challenged, then it becomes what's called a thing decided after 30 days, and it's no longer challengeable in court. A second request that I was aware of, and I was not able to get a hold of this individual before the meeting, that during that same time period for a similar facility in rural residential at tax map 38-31C, which is right over here in Sperryville, by another citizen, it was afforded the same decision, and it also continues to operate. It was not challenged and became a thing decided. These decisions set a precedent and established a standard for dog training facilities in the county. This means that either these older businesses are lawful and therefore the Wagner facility should be as well, or the zoning ordinance is being enforced in an arbitrary and discriminatory manner. Either way, the board looks at it. The board cannot uphold the zoning administrator's decision. Note that 15.2-2311 appeals to the board, Part C of the State of Virginia Code, states that in no event shall a written order, requirement, decision, or determination made by a zoning administrator or other administrative officer be subject to change, modification, or reversal by any zoning administrator or other administrative officer after 60 days have elapsed from the date of the written order, requirement, decision, or determination where the person aggrieved has materially changed his position in good faith reliance on the action of the zoning administrator or other administrative officer unless it is proven that such a written order, requirement, decision, or determination was obtained through malfeasance of the zoning administrator or other administrative officer or through fraud. The 60-day period shall not apply in any case where the concurrence of the attorney for the governing body modification, let me reread that. With the concurrence of the attorney for the governing body, the modification is required to correct clerical errors. That's the wording of the code exactly. So that is my thinking on this, is that the precedence has been set. Two facilities have been operating for 25 years with no problems. One of them is in rural residential, and the other one's in agriculture. As Ms. Ritter just said, the one in rural residential may in fact have a permit. I was unaware of that, but the one in agriculture does not, and she has been cited for operating in an agricultural district. So that's where I am on this issue, and I would start the process rolling. I would make a move to grant the applicant's request on zoning appeal 23-01-02 to overturn the zoning administrator's notice of violation and determination that the special use permit is not required for the portion of her dog training facility that takes place in agricultural zoning on tax map number 27-56E.
I'll second that.
Andrew, do you have any questions?
Is it a motion that's active? I don't want to interrupt the sequence.
It's been motion, it's been made and seconded, and it's up for discussion.
Okay, then I'll go ahead, because Steph, I'm with you. The special use permit, I would love, I guess my only question here to wrap it into a bow is, are we able to waive a fee and follow due process that would not impede this? Because I'm inclined to just vote in the affirmative and move along, and I'm with you of the logic of this, to ensure that we're firm on our precedent in this county. I'm not opposed to following a sequence. That's kind of a vague question. I look forward to just you saying that's enough of that. Let's take this vote, and I'm happy to finish up.
Okay, I'm not sure I followed. Let's see. So your argument basically is that there's a precedent set and we should stick with it.
I do agree with that.
Okay.
Yes.
I will agree with that.
Prior to throwing out the motion is along your lines of logic that we need to ensure that there's a special use, and I want to make sure that that's followed.
Wait a minute, but the special use, okay. The way this is coming up is Charlotte Wagner was cited for not having a special use permit. She appealed from that, saying that she shouldn't have to have one. So that's and Ron is, the chair is arguing that, look, there's a precedent for having dog training facilities on agricultural property. Without a permit. And that that's the precedent.
Yeah, I know. I'm happy to waive that and move that the precedent's been set and we can move forward. Prior to that motion, I was going to ask if we had the means of perhaps waiving a fee and following the proper process and getting a special use. But now that there's been a motion, I'm happy to just finish up and vote. If we'd rather just wrap this up now, the way it seems appropriate to me.
And I'll just add, from my standpoint, that also I'm a big believer in the will of the people. And what we've seen here tonight is that it appears that the people of Rappahannock are in favor of allowing Charlotte to have her facility and utilize the agricultural property that's associated with the property. So are we?
Okay, so given what you found out, I'm guessing John McCarthy's memory was not so good, and that probably what he was thinking was that dog training, especially out here, was for farm animals raised for use and enjoyment on farms in similarly situated areas, and therefore there was no need for a permit.
That would be, that would be a guess. I mean, John McCarthy's not here, and like I said, he was apparently unfamiliar with the Immisville facility or something, because, you know, I don't know, and that's sort of becomes a moot point in that these two facilities have been around for 25 years, and it was under his watch as the zoning administrator, and so we can't, you know, we would be creating a double standard if we were to change the interpretation at this point. So that's, you know, I'm comfortable with going with that.
Okay. Well, I will agree with that.
So, if there's no other comments, I'll call for the question.
Okay.
There'll be a roll call vote.
Can restate the motion?
Okay. No, actually, the motion is based on the previous information. The motion is based on the findings, which are what I read through previously, and State Code 15.2-23, 11-C. I move to grant the applicant's request on zoning appeal number 23-01-02 to overturn the zoning administrator's notice of violation and determine that a special use permit is not required for the portion of her dog training facility that takes place in agricultural zoning on tax map number 27-56E.
That's the motion.
And you second?
I second.
And I'll agree. I'll vote aye.
Andrew?
Vote aye. That's so.
Aye. And the chairman votes aye. So the applicant's request is granted. Thank you all. We have one other small business item to take care of, if you all want to do mail. Okay, moving on. The next order of business is new business, and this is a preliminary review of special use permit 22-10-01. It's Kopke? Okay, tourist home, tax map number 1B-1-3-13. And she's applied for a 3-bedroom tourist home for property located at 118 Highland Way, Chester Gap, identified by tax map number, which I just gave. The property is 0.3306 acres in size and is zoned village residential. And all we're doing tonight is determining whether we have the required paperwork in-house in order to move on and schedule for a public hearing. So basically, we don't need a presentation from the applicant at this point unless we have a question on the paperwork. So,
there's no deed included.
What?
There's no deed in the packet.
So she has her contingency sales contract in there, which substitutes.
There's no deed. We require a deed. We require a deed. And in this case, we require a deed because from what my knowledge is on this, from her application, is that she's not the owner of the property. Although she was the purchaser of the property, she's no longer the owner of the property. The property is owned by BAVR LLC. So,
At the
so
time
we
of
need,
the, at the time of the application, if there's a contingency sales agreement, that's what we request instead of a copy of the deed. But we can get you that copy, not a problem.
yeah, I mean, I'm right here, it says the application will not be accepted until all of the following information is provided to the zoning administrator. And there are all these little check things here, and there's actually 4 of them that are, that we don't have. There is no explicit statement and summary of proposed use explaining how it aligns with the zoning ordinance. There are no photographs of the property and the structure. There is no copy of the deed and the plat of there is a copy of the plat of the property, but there's no copy of the deed. And there's no copy of the property card for the property from the Commissioner of Revenue. And they're on the list of required documents, and we have been requiring, I mean, if they're on the list, and there's, you know, we want to see them. So in this case, you know, what I'm going to propose is that we go ahead and agree to schedule it for a public hearing at our next meeting if these documents are provided prior to the advertising date, you know, prior to the date that you have to go to the paper and put in the advertising. So that's like she's got 2 weeks, which shouldn't be a problem, but, and that would, I would make that a motion if there are no other questions from board members on the documents.
No?
And your motion is that we put this on the agenda for next month, providing that the 4 missing items are received.
Right.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So it will be, we'll deal with it next month and just get us those additional documents so that we can take a look at them and we'll move ahead. And looking at the agenda, I see nothing else. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Good.
And seconded, and all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.